Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. Вы слушаете программу Ushanka Show. This is Comrade Sergey Sputnikov, aka John Wayne Cheeseburger. So today we're going to talk about free housing in the Soviet Union, or was it really free? I already talked about this topic several times before, and you probably should check out my older videos on this topic so we will be up to speed for this video. I'll put the links below this video, but one of the important things you need to know is how the Soviet government controlled its people using Propiska system. Propiska, it's very important to know about it, because without this signing in, I guess you can translate it like that, that's the only way you were allowed to live in specific city and in specific apartment. You had to have Propiska in order to occupy a specific apartment. And another video about housing is a Soviet mortgage, how my family struggled to buy an apartment. So this is the story of my family, and this should kind of make you question the whole concept of free housing in the Soviet Union. Why would people get a mortgage in the Soviet Union to buy an apartment if government provided free housing? So that's another important video to watch if you want to understand the whole housing situation in the Soviet Union. So I just want to warn you guys right away, it's going to be long and boring videos like many of videos on my channel. And for those who don't like long and boring videos, I want to tell you right away that we had no free housing in the Soviet Union. We never owned the apartments. All the housing was government owned, but what we had was heavily subsidized rent. The cost was approximately 10 to 13 kopecks per square meter. So for example, if your apartment is pretty large, like my parents had a 3-room apartment, about 60 square meters, so you would pay roughly 7-8 rubles per month. So average salary was about 130, 150 rubles per month. So you're looking, without other expenses like electricity, water, natural gas, it was about 10% of your income was the housing cost, but you never actually owned the apartment. And I know it's kind of like technicality, but it's free is free. Here we had affordable, very inexpensive rent. And I'm not sure about later years, but during the Stalin regime, for example, if you had a nice apartment, but your husband will be called enemy of the state, will get arrested, you'll get kicked out of that apartment. You have no right to live there. So you can lose apartment anytime. So today I would like to tell you about different types of housing we had available in the Soviet Union. Номер один.
Номер один.
Коммунальная квартира. Communal apartment, or the short name was коммуналка. So that's the large apartment that maybe have 5, 6, 7 rooms that shared by multiple families. So every room will be occupied by the different family, and they share the kitchen and the bathrooms. So that's a communal apartment, коммуналка. So the communal apartment situation is quite interesting because it has a history going all the way back to October Revolution of 1917. That's how the Soviet government tried to solve a housing problem in the big cities like St. Petersburg, which got renamed to Leningrad, and Moscow, is by going into the large apartments of rich people, engineers, traders, doctors, and so on, and turning those apartments into communal apartments, коммуналки. So the Soviets came up with this law about уплотнение, and the only way I can translate it is like packing it in. So picture a jar, big like a gallon jar with only a couple of pickles. So you have a large apartment with 2 or 3 people living in it. So what the Soviets said, hey, it's too big for only 2-3 people. We have to do packing in. So we're gonna jam more pickles in that jar because there's plenty of room. So they come up with the law that you can have only 1 room for 2 kids. So if the family, for example, 2 adults, 2 kids, you only can have 2 rooms. The other rooms will be given to other families. So now out of your nice 5-6 room apartment, you suddenly have 2 rooms and other rooms getting occupied by total strangers. So this is уплотнение, the process of packing more people in every single apartment. And you may think, well, it probably was good for the temporary solution, because it's hard to imagine to have 5 families sharing one apartment, sharing the kitchen, sharing the bathroom. It's pretty wild. But check this out. In Leningrad in 1996, so we're talking 85 years, not 85, sorry, so 79 years after October Revolution, almost 80 years later, they still had 200,000 communal apartments in Leningrad, with about over 500,000 people living there. So 14% of all housing in Leningrad in 1996. So after Soviet Union collapsed, they still had 200,000 communal apartments with over 500,000 people living there. And of course, most of those communal apartments located in downtown, in the central part of the cities, in the older buildings that were built before revolution. For example, when I went to Ukraine with my son, we rented apartment downtown Kiev because we needed to have air conditioning. My son couldn't live in my apartment, my parents' apartment, because it had no air. And we had a nice room apartment we rented, but same building also had a couple of communal apartments. And how you can recognize them, by the entry door, there'll be quite a few doorbells with the different last names. Or, they don't want you to ring the doorbell and, 5 families not sure who came to visit whom. So you ring the specific doorbell that's going to ring in that room. So you came to visit Ivanovs, not Sputnikovs. Number 2.
Номер 2.
Barracks, or as we say in Russian, baraki. So of course, probably everyone is familiar with military type of barracks. You see them in the movies like Forrest Gump. It's just a large building, just giant room inside, and there's a bunch of beds. So that's kind of similar housing type. It could be 2-story high barrack. And the only difference for the family barracks, they will have separate rooms. So every family will have just a separate room. No conveniences. And then you have a common kitchen. And then you have outside, you have outhouses. And every room will have some wood burning stove to cook and maybe stay warm. And then we'll have a big communal kitchen for cooking, like big meals and stuff like that. A lot of these barracks, they date back to 1930s, 40s. So when Stalin pushed Soviet Russia into industrialization, they were building new factories, new coal mines, and so on, like middle of nowhere. So of course you had to house workers somewhere. So they built those temporary barracks, and still people live there in modern days. And then, of course, when the World War II started, or Great Patriotic War in 1941, when they evacuated factories from Ukraine and Western Russia into Siberia, they also put them and they built barracks. And still, people utilize that housing. It's in really poor shape. And I tried to look it up. It looks like about 20% of population in those Far East areas, so it's more away from the European part of Russia. People still live in those barracks that's kind of like in a really poor condition, really poor shape, because that housing was temporarily, and it's temporarily for over 80 years. Number 3.
Номер 3.
Общежитие. So that's a dormitories or dorms. Общежитие, it's a combination of 2 words, общее житье, so like a common living. I'm personally experienced that for, I think, like 5 years of my life. My family, when my parents got married, they both came out of town, lived in Kiev. So they lived in a dormitory. So one level of that dormitory was dedicated to married couples. So we shared one small room with another family for 5 years. Can you imagine that beauty? So that they had maybe like, I don't know, 10 rooms on one floor. Each room had 2 families, and then they had one big kitchen for the whole floor, and then of course bathrooms. I mean, bathroom, I was saying just squat toilets. They didn't have showers, and I lived like that for 5 years. So I had a good experience of this type of lifestyle, living in a dormitory. But it's not like single guys, that's families. And I remember when you walk in our room, our bed was on the left side of the room by the wall. The other family had their bed on the right side. We had one table that we shared. So that was kind of separation. And of course, then we had this steel cable with the curtain, so we can draw the curtain to make a separation. So we have like 2 rooms in one room. And the worst experience from that lifestyle is when they had a baby. I was maybe already 3-year-old or 4-year-old. I just remember that baby was crying at night. It didn't let me sleep, so I was always upset and cranky. So that was my recollection of this type of lifestyle, living in a dorm, sharing a room with another family. That was not cool. And I want to thank again everyone who supports my channel on patreon.com. Thank you guys, it's greatly appreciated. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet